Once you've added names to your data, you will want to go back to those names to make changes or find information. You will find your name records in Name List Management, and that's the topic of this section. To find your names, you'll go to the Names link in the sidebar menu and then Name List Management. Here we see a list of names. Of course, no one wants to scroll through 20,000 name records to find the one you want. So Denari has provided a way to search for the name you want, and there are two options here. The first is the basic search. Type any part of a name, address, email address, etc. into that field and hit your Enter key to find all of the records that have that criteria somewhere in the name record. Then you can click on the plus sign to see more information, or click the top line of the record to go to that name record. A second search option is Advanced. It allows you to narrow your search by focusing on the fields themselves. You can search any of the fields listed in the drop-down by themselves or together. For example, you could enter something in the last name field and change the second field to email and enter a value there. Hit the Enter key and Denari will find all of the name records with that last name and that email address. Once I've found the name I want, I can click on the row to select that name. This page stores all of the information about this name record. As we quickly look through the page, we see that it stores the basic info like names and addresses, etc., but we store a lot of other information as well. The links on the right side give us access to other pages of information related to this donor, like alternate addresses, classifications, contacts, gift history, pledges, etc. We will cover these topics in other videos. In this session, we're going to look at the main name page, but it's important to remember where to find this information. Many of the fields on this page are pretty intuitive, so we will focus only on those fields that need some explanation. The first field we see at the top is the account number. It is assigned by Denari. As each name record is added, Denari chooses the next number incrementally. If name records are deleted, Denari does not reuse the account number. This is the number that you will use as the identifier for a name record. It is unique, so there can be only one donor with this number. Most of the fields in this top section are self-explanatory, but there are a few that we need to talk about, and the first is the organization field. Denari does not use this field to determine if a name record is an organization, but it does use this field when printing names and addresses on statements like receipts, pledge statements, etc., as well as on some reports. Let's call that section of the statement the address block. It contains the name and address information. Denari has functionality built into that address block that is designed to make the block more attractive and readable. The address block function also uses another field from this top section called the contact name. Denari does not use the first and last name fields in the address block on statements. The contact name field allows you to enter the name and address the way you prefer it to be in the address block on statements. For example, by default, when you create a new name, Denari will fill in the contact field automatically for you using the first, spouse, and last name fields. It might say something like John and Jane Doe. Some Denari users prefer a more formal format like Mr. and Mrs. Doe. You can put that into the contact name field, and that's what Denari will use in the address block. So here's how the address block functionality works. If the organization field is blank, Denari will put the contact name in line 1, the street address in line 2, and if there is a street 2, it goes into line 3, and then the city, state, and zip in line 3 or 4, again depending on the contents of street 2. And then, if there's a country, it will go into either line 4 or 5. If there's something in the organization field, Denari will put the organization field in line 1, the contact name in line 2, the address in line 3, and the city, state, and zip in 4. This can create a small problem, however. If you put the name of an organization in the organization field and also again in the contact name field, it will appear twice in the address block. So you should decide early on how to handle this for your organization. If you decide to store the name of the organization in the organization field, then you should leave the contact name field blank unless there's a person who is the contact for that organization, and that can go in that field. There's one small issue with this method, and that is when you create a new name record and you leave the first and last name fields blank. Denari will not fill in the salutation field automatically. You will need to manually do that once the record is set up, and that brings us to the dear or salutation field. Denari will print the contents of this field on statements that contain letters. Just like the contact name, Denari will fill in this field automatically when you create a new name record using the first, spouse, and last names that you enter into the Add New form. Again, you can change this field to make it more formal or use whatever name format you prefer here. There are two code fields in this top section, name type and name code. Both of these are covered in the session on codes, so we won't repeat that here. We also need to discuss the country field. Most Denari users receive donations from a limited number of countries. Therefore, Denari does not offer you every country in the world in this drop-down field. Instead, it allows you to create your own unique country list. Let's look at how we do that. Click the plus sign and then countries. Click Add New to create a new one. And this one is pretty simple. Type in the description and the abbreviation for the country and hit Save. Click Add New to create more countries if needed. And that's how the country list is populated. We have a deliverable checkbox in this section that is used for those times when you send out mail and it comes back from the post office as undeliverable. You can then uncheck this box. Now when you do mailings, you can tell Denari to not include those. In Name Segmenter, Denari calls them bad addresses, and you'll see that in the session on Name Segmenter. Across from deliverable, we find international. Denari does not use the country field to determine if this address is an international address or not. Instead, it relies on this field. The reason for this is that Denari has clients in other countries, and of course their definition of international is different from those living in the U.S. This field allows you to confine your mailings to just international, not international, or everyone. Below that are the NCOA fields. NCOA stands for National Change of Address and is something that the U.S. Post Office uses. When one of your donors moves, they can fill out an NCOA form which allows the post office to forward their mail to the new address. The post office makes this information available to businesses and others to update your records as well. The NCOA feature is an add-on feature to Denari, and if you're interested, you can click the gear icon at the top of the page and select the NCOA option to get more information. Synergy runs this service 4 times per year, and you can subscribe as needed. Checking the No NCOA checkbox here will remove this name record from the process. At the bottom of this section, we have the Standardize link. Standardization is also a post office option that is an add-on feature for Denari. When you add a new name record, Denari will attempt to standardize the address according to the post office database, but you may have an occasion to need to standardize this particular name record, and you can do that by clicking this link. When you standardize, Denari will match the post office standard, which puts the street and city fields in all uppercase. While your data may be stored that way, you can change how this prints on statements and reports in the Preferences page. And we click the gear icon and come down to Preferences, and you'll find that setting on that page. In the Quick Actions section here on the right, we have three options. The copy link here will place the name and address on the Windows clipboard, which then allows you to paste that into a different document. For example, if you're writing a single letter in a word processor to this individual, you can copy and paste to the document. The map link will connect you to MapQuest and place this address on the map. And the phone lookup will connect you to the white pages and we'll attempt to find a phone number for this record. Let's jump down now to the international section and talk quickly about email storage. E-correspondence is an add-on feature that allows you to send receipts, pledge statements, pledge acknowledgments, and end-of-year tax statements by email. If you have not purchased this feature, then you will see email fields here and can store up to 3 email addresses. If you have purchased this feature, you will see this link. You will also find an e-correspondence emails link in the right sidebar. Both will take you to the same email storage for this donor. The subject of e-correspondence will be covered in more detail in another training session, but you can store as many email addresses here as you would like. In the development management section, the first field we have here is the appeal code. The appeal code was assigned to the name record when the new name was added. It tracks where your donor came from, or in other words, what fundraising function generated this name. By default, it can't be changed. The assumption here is that once a name record has been added to your data as a result of a fundraising effort, that never changes. However, if you do need to change it, you can go to Preferences again and set this field so that it is editable. And then once you change the name record, you can go back to Preferences if you like and change it back so that it is again non-editable. You'll find a checkbox there in that page that allows you to turn that on and off. And because I know there is sometimes more confusion about this field, let me say that this field is not related to gifts or pledges. This tells you what fundraising function generated this name. If this donor gives gifts in the future, those gifts may result from different fundraising functions, and they're not connected to how you acquired this name record. So the name record appeal code usually will not change, but may change as they give gifts in the future. We also find the jurisdiction and caseworker fields here in this section, and they're covered in the session on codes, so check that out. The suppress receipting checkbox is used when a donor tells you to stop sending thank you receipts. Once the box is checked, when you print receipts from that batch, Denari won't include this donor's receipt in the output. Quite frequently, however, we get tech support messages asking why, when the user prints receipts, the donor's receipt isn't included. The answer quite often is that this box is checked, so if that happens, remember to check the name record to see if suppress receipting is checked. And the last field we need to discuss is the rating field. The rating field is used with a feature called targeted ask values, and this topic will be covered in another training session as well. In the notes section, we have two sections, general notes and post-it notes. General notes are just that. You can put anything you want into that field. Some people use that field to record contact information. In other words, those times when they maybe have made a phone call or written a letter, etc., and so they want to keep track of that in this general notes field. That's okay, but there is a contact module that allows you to record that information there. And that topic is covered in a separate training session also. But if your contacts are limited, then this might be a good location for those notes. The contents of the post-it note field will show only in the gift entry and in the contacts record mentioned previously. There are several examples of how this might be used. For example, let's say that this donor normally donates to 3 of your staff members. You might include that in this field so that the gift entry person will be reminded of that during gift entry. Or maybe the donor calls to let you know that his or her spouse has passed away. You can include this information in this field so that someone who's making contact with this person will be reminded. You can delete the information simply by coming to this field, deleting the text, and then hitting save on the name record. And then down at the bottom of the page we have the online community section, and that section will be covered in a separate training video also, but we can quickly point out that if a donor forgets their online community username or password, you can come here to change it for them. And the last thing we want to talk about is the button bar found at the top of the page. First is the Save button, and that one's pretty intuitive. You'll want to hit this one after making any changes on this page, of course. The next button is the Lookup button. Clicking this button returns you to the name list. This is much faster than going to the Names link and then Name List Management. The Undo button will undo your changes up to the point of hitting Save. Once you've saved a record, you can't undo anything. The plus sign is the Add New button. Clicking this button will take you to the new name screen. The X is the Delete button. This button will only appear on the button bar when the name record does not have a gift history. Denari will not allow you to delete names with gift histories. The reason for this is that normally you want to keep a complete history of your donations for legal reasons, but also deleting records with other records like gift records attached to them can be a complicated process from a database perspective, and so it's safer to keep them. To the right of Delete is the Print button. Clicking this button will produce a report that summarizes this name record. It includes their name and address, giving history, pledge history, classifications, etc. This report will go to your inbox and you can pick it up there. And to the right of the Print button is the Customize button. This page will allow you to make some edits on this page, some of the labels and the way that they appear, and also adjust some of the security settings for the page, and this topic will be covered in a separate session as well. This concludes the session on the name page. The job description for adding new names should include reviewing this page each time a new name is added to be sure that the correct classifications have been selected, the contact name and DEAR fields are set up correctly, and any other fields that are important to you on this page are set the way you want. As always, if you have any questions about this topic, please contact our tech support office by clicking the Help button at the top of the page and then Support.